Well, thanks for everyone for joining our September edition of our Kentucky K-12 CIOs and EdTech leaders. I'm David Couch with the Kentucky Department of Education. For those that are new or haven't joined us in a while, this is our way to share some information that's going on around the state and around the nation. At the same time, getting feedback from districts. I sent out the agenda yesterday along with the summary. I sent out the agenda for September and the summary for August. So I hope you have a chance to take a look at if you were not joining us in the August timeframe. Our structure today is much similar to what we had last month. We're going to cover quickly some agenda items, and then we're going to go into a closed session to talk with one of our KETS partners, but also to talk about some cybersecurity related types of things. So typically, when we go into closed session, it could affect cybersecurity in some kind of way, and then we just want that to be in a closed group of our districts and our OET staff, because we have with the media portal that goes out, beyond that group around the world. So we want to make sure that we have certain just topics that we're covering internal. So we'll start that around 10:30. We are also doing something new today that we haven't done before. Is we had a good friend called Go Soapbox that we used for a long time. I don't know, was it
10 years?
10 years, 10 years. Really nice way for us to get feedback from districts of poll questions and then discussion questions and then just general things that they're discussing and picking the ones kind of the hot topics, make sure that we're addressing. But today, Go Soapbox goes into our KETS Museum, the Kentucky Education Technology System Museum. It has reached end of life. It gets a parade and 5 stars for a job well done. We have a lot of items that fall into that category over the years that did an excellent job as we move on to a new way of doing it. And that new way of doing it would be through Microsoft Teams, through the polling. I mean, we do have 6 polling questions for you today. Mark, is there anything else you'd like to say about the tool?
Yeah, I would like to go ahead and just call out, again, high five to Go Soapbox. We started using Go Soapbox at a time when we were, really striving and pushing for participation, interactivity, making sure that we could have two-way collaborative conversations, and now these tools are commonly built into platforms like Teams, and I've highlighted the QA. So we have the question and answer tool inside of Teams enabled for this meeting, and it's the exact same idea where it's a social QA. So anyone who has a question about any topic that we're going over, make sure to drop that question in there, and then we encourage everyone else to like it or thumbs up that question, so that we make sure that we address it live. The questions with the most thumbs up, we'll make sure to cover. And then, as David mentioned, the polling questions will pop right in the middle of your screen during the meeting, and we'll review those responses live. Again, we're always pushing for interactivity. We're pushing for participation, feedback. As you know, that's how we are great together, and that's what we'll continue to work towards.
So you'll see that we're going to have 3 poll questions that are related to the State Education Technology Directors Association, the CETA report that just came out last week. And we're interested, you'll see the national results from every state. We're interested in our state, from our districts, how much aligned are you with that? With those results. And Kentucky is going to be different, and just overall, I can remember the responses we gave to some of those questions were different than the other states. So I just got interested in your all's view on 3 of those questions that were asked of state level K-12 CIOs, those in my position across the country. How does that equate to our districts across the state? So we have 3 in the CETA portion. Then we ask one with the next area of the technology activity report and the digital readiness. And then we have 2 more in our closed session that are around cybersecurity that we're going to ask you to respond to. So I'll start up at the top where we are, our legislative priorities for 2025. I've met with Commissioner Fletcher and then our legislative liaison with the legislature to kind of go over these. One of these I'm going to talk to you about in our closed session. But we have 3 items that we're asking for to be addressed, and it's very rare that we in our office really pushes for legislation or changes, but there's a couple of these that it's reached a point that we need to do that. So the 2 items the first 2 are really cleanup kind of items. The first one, we're asking for a reg that's around teachers being able to buy the computers off our computer state contract of KETS be removed. The main reason, there's a couple of reasons I would say. No teacher has bought off that contract probably in 15 or 20 years. It served a purpose in the early days of KETS. I can remember even buying off of it personally for myself. And it was made so teachers could get the same discounts that we were getting statewide with the computer contracts, but that's kind of lost its need and its demand. So the downside of that, staying there, is turned to what they call a mule bill. They use for mule bills, I should say, MULE. And this is where the legislature picks an existing regulation and adds a lot of wording to it that has nothing to do with the original regulation. So the teacher workstation reg has been used quite frequently over the past 10 years for legislators at the very end of legislative session to add some kind of legislation that they want to add that normally they did. There's a process you're supposed to go earlier in the session, which they didn't do. So this is their way, instead of introducing something new, they modify it, which they're permitted to do. But we just want to eliminate that being an option for this particular item being used mainly for something that it's not really intended for. The other one is to remove some wording of a committee, a technology-related committee that hasn't met in 31 years and really hasn't been needed since that time frame. We've done a pretty good job removing that wording from a good amount of it, the regulations and statutes that were established way back when, but there's still 1 or 2 places, so we're going to ask for cleanup of that particular part, and I'll hit upon the other area that deals with Social Security numbers in our closed session. We do have an upcoming presentation to a Kentucky Legislative Committee on Education on 15 October. And by the way, that's one of the reasons why we are asking, we're going to be shifting our next meeting of Kentucky K-12 CIOs and EdTech leaders to the 16th of October versus this normal day on the 15th. Because that presentation to the legislature, Marty Park and I will be there presenting it from a K-12 perspective, the perspective AI's how impact or not impact, or what we already have in place for AI during that same time frame. Here's what I intended for us to present to kind of give you a heads up. The really intent is to have a very short opening to them to really make the legislators aware of reference information that we already have in advance. So we have the majority of the time available for their questions. We're intending to provide them the 2024 AI guidance that we provide to all districts and KD staff to take a look at. We'll mention that in the opening. We're also going to mention in the opening that we got feedback from all of you twice in the Kentucky K-12 CIO Summit in 2023 and 2024. So obviously it's not your individual replies, but they're the collective big idea replies that we've gotten in 2023 and 2024 for a variety of kind of questions, which I think is an important one, is how has it changed? For example, in 2024, one of them was how has that changed your priority and its impact in 2024 and 2023? And also, what are the key skill sets was another one of the questions we asked in 24 that students should be aware of with AI going forward. We know that's going to be part of their future. And just as a reference, as we provided those responses to all of you back in June, it's actually in the summary notes of our June webcast. So we presented it back in that time frame. So if you want to take a look at what we're intending to provide, which I think gives great insight to how this is playing out in the school districts. I'm also going to mention Donnie Piercy's book. He's the 2021 Teacher of the Year that talks about his view of how to use AI in a classroom constructively. And then we'll, the really part of it is the discussion will be how much AI is or isn't used. It will be the comfort level that each district has or doesn't have with AI. And then where every district is, how well does AI fit within their educational goals that they have and their vision that they have for their district. We will mention to them that we recommend, just like we've always said, that everyone that needs to get familiar with AI, just try it out, then weigh out the pluses and minuses yourself. We'll also mention the AI will definitely be part of every Kentucky K-12 student's future as an adult. So we constantly need to adapt to AI and get those students ready for the future and be able to change at a fairly fast pace. We'll also mention that AI is already part of a good number of products that's already available in school districts. It's being built behind the scenes to make the product more effectively. But at the same time, there's ones that do stand out, like ChatGPT type of products. But we'll mention that districts do have the ability with district-owned computers that are provided to students to block that computer from accessing that on the classroom campus or beyond the classroom campus. But of course, we'll mention about students having their personal cell phones and personal internet access that can obviously get to those tools. I do suspect one of their questions will be about smartphones use in the classroom. So we'll be prepared for that. Actually, I asked ChatGPT what kind of questions should we expect from the Kentucky legislature. So it gave me some ideas and already had some preconceived kind of things in there, but that wasn't one of them. But I suspect they'll be able to access because that came up in the past legislative session, and we expect that to be part of the future one, especially when I mentioned there's ways that districts can manage districts accessing certain content and certain tools, but we can't prevent that from their smartphones. And social networking will come up as well, a lot of interest in that. And obviously the school district can block that on the campus, but they can't block it beyond. That's where most of the mischief occurs with those, by the way. Yeah, well, I'll mention about we got to make sure that K-12 researchers are not putting the top secret data in AI systems. That was a constant thing of make sure we're protecting student privacy. And, I will mention, and I do think this is true, that there needs to be some safe boundaries around artificial intelligence way beyond education. And it'll take me back to my time in 1973 watching Westworld, the movie, where you had robots combined with artificial intelligence, which I think, that definitely is, I tell folks anytime I see AI combined with robots that can independently move around, that creeps me out a little bit. Takes me back to those days watching that Westworld movie, and that's obviously the HBO special on it. So that's what we intend on mentioning to them, just a kind of highlight of it. Our KETS financial officer assistant status for 2024-25, we're going to give out $21. We anticipate this year the first offer around $12, I believe, Mike, if that's correct. We've already gone through the process in August of September, which is required by reg of getting the offers of assistance amount and what we're doing approved by our Kentucky Board of Education and the School Facility Construction Commission. And also part of that process, and we do have questions about technology activity report approved and the digital readiness report approved. That's part of the requirement before an offer can be sent. Mike, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, not really. October 7th is the date that we expect those offers to start going out. The first offer is $12. And as you mentioned, the requirements of the TAR and the digital readiness survey to be submitted and TAR signature to be received ahead of that date. So obviously, I've got latest numbers here somewhere. I lost track of them. So we've got 134 of the technology activity reports received. And we don't have all those signature pages yet, but that's how many districts have submitted the technology activity report. So anyway, we always have a pretty good number that comes in the last week ahead of that. So look forward to everybody getting that stuff submitted and be able to get that money out.
Thanks. We did get word back from the U.S. Department of Education that our ESSER, the federal ESSER funds, this is the COVID funds, have been approved for extension. That'll impact something I'm going to talk to you about in our closed session, but that's good news for some of the services we had out there, like Infinite Campus's registration kind of service continues on, and there's a variety of others that we're able to extend, paying for a little while longer on behalf of school districts, which takes me to my next topic. There are impacts, and I've mentioned this quite frequently. You can see it in the summary notes or in a variety of ways. When we put our additional budget request in for CATS, and even though it's been a priority from a variety of things, we've gotten stepped over for other things during the session, the past sessions. There are impacts to that, and we've laid out the negative consequences of us not getting funding to restore the $10 million cuts that we got since 2008. And not to address any additional cost of living expenses since 1992. That's all coming to a head. So anything that costs more money than we currently have budgeted, we have to find another funding source for that. Some of the funding sources may be within another office in KDE, or that may be shifted to school districts. Now, and I always will tell folks is typically when we buy in mass, we save 40 to 60% at the state level for buying a service. When districts have to pay for that, they lose that 40 to 60% discount. So not only will districts pay for certain things going forward that normally we would have paid for, they will pay substantially more because we lose that 40 to 60%. So we're at that point of the realities of that are going to start happening. And I'll share one of those with you in the closed session. We also got some good news from the State Education Technology Directors Association. That once again, they ask states a variety of questions every year. And this year they highlighted 4 states. Kentucky was one of those 4 states, along with the 2 states that are touching us in Indiana, Virginia, and then the state of Maine. So 4 states, Kentucky K-12 EdTech was highlighted, and I sent you a link to that report. And also asked you to respond to 3 poll questions. So, well, Marty, that's a good way to test how well we're doing with them going to the Q&A portion of this and filling that out. And this will be a learning curve for everyone. So can you bring those up? You'll be able to bring them? Yeah. Yeah.
Going to launch the first question now.
Going to launch the first question. So I'm learning from this as well.
And we'll just give a 30 seconds for folks to answer that question.
So there's 4 responses there, right? So we're saying what's the most important one, right? So this differs a little bit from Go Soapbox, where they could get them in advance. Can these?
We can do it in advance as
You
well.
can do it in advance. Okay.
Yeah. So go ahead and answer if you answer your question there.
So just by clicking on one of these. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now we can see
Go cybersecurity.
Look at you, Bob.
cybersecurity is the front runner.
Bob, how many times are you clicking on that?
And then we have something I'm excited about. We have 73, 79 responses so far.
Yeah.
Which is topping, where we were Go Soapbox.
Yeah.
So
Well, Bob's entered 60 responses.
he
So
has. Yes, he definitely has.
I don't know if that.
I used my elevated privileges.
The ones you were fussing about yesterday.
Yeah. Good.
Bob's not really doing that.
You want ready for the second question?
Let me just see here. Okay. And you know that this doesn't surprise me because, Kentucky is, if you go back to 1992, equity of opportunity of access has always been a core fundamental part of the Kentucky education technology system. And so that's always been in our DNA. So we've always had that as a very high priority. So it doesn't surprise me that this is not a big deal in our environment because we've been working on it. And but other states, this isn't one. They don't have equity and access and opportunity in EdTech and never have had it. So that becomes a very high one.
And when we compare, Dave, when we compare to the CETA report, that effective part of that response is also interesting. And what we're finding is as that desire continues to grow to understand the effective uses of EdTech,
Yeah.
their strategies. I'm going to launch this.
And people can still respond to this after this part here, right? So we're interested because, as you know, we share the responses of this both internally with our OET staff and even with our KD leaders, and send that back to you in our summary notes. Okay, so hit done. Is that what I'm going to do? Okay. Okay.
Now, this is a multiple select. So again, you want to tap or select of the options. What are your top priorities? And again, what we did last year that was very helpful for us was to compare our Kentucky results from our EdTech leaders across the state with the national results.
The one I did notice that wasn't on here, because we didn't pick these, CETA did, is I would have thought that student absenteeism would be up there. So obviously, if we'd have done this in our state, that would have been added.
So these responses are coming in. We're now at close to 60 responses. Funding kind of leading the way at 27% and growing. This is kind of like a Kentucky Derby race where you can watch the horses.
Yeah.
Close behind funding is improving academic outcomes, which connects to that previous question about effectiveness pretty nicely.
Okay.
85 responses. Percentages are staying pretty constant.
Mm-hmm.
And David, I'm going to launch the third question, which is top. This is top unmet need areas.
Okay.
Unmet technology, EdTech needs. And it's nice that we're getting a little time for feedback here.
The other part that if you notice this from the national point of view, the home access connectivity is super high.
Mm-hmm.
And we've said for quite some time, while Kentucky's not 100% perfect with having internet access at the homes of students, all 100% of students, we have an extremely high percentage that do have enough bandwidth to do their schoolwork. And always when I meet with my other states is, there's always this Kentucky is so far behind in that area, and we're really not. So that doesn't surprise me there, but it does surprise me with the other states. That's why it'll be interesting for you to take these and then compare them to what all the states put together with theirs.
That's right. Okay, ready to
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
Tap done and
Cool. Like that. We have another poll question for this one. You can go ahead and put that one up. As I mentioned earlier, part of your offer of assistance is you completing the technology activity report and the digital readiness report. Those are viewed for a variety of purposes, including with the legislature. You'll be using the legislature in this coming session, starting in January, and then the following funding session. That starts in January 2026. So
you're feeling awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, okay.
I think if we're on Amazon with this, we're getting a lot of action, baby.
Yeah. We have a very high percentage, but it is, and we constantly try to show the added value that this brings. You can see with your district how it compares statewide, which is a really good part of these reports. And then obviously they're used for a lot of different important decision-making things that can positively impact districts from education technology perspective.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks. And just a reminder, and I know Mike mentioned that was due on the 16th, have a very high percentage of both of those. Heads up that Education Networks of America will be doing a press release about the positive aspects of our Kentucky K-12 EdTech system, particularly the internet service. Mike, I sent you some of those edits last night. And if ENA's watching it, I sent those last night and I saw those on there. So that'll be coming out in the very near future. I didn't see I don't know if Dee Dee's, I know in Washington, D.C. Linda Burton, are you on here is there any kind of update from the K-12 data systems?
David, I'm on.
Okay, Dee Dee, go ahead.
I was in Washington yesterday.
Okay.
Yes, I think you made the biggest announcement that everybody wanted to hear, that online registration and campus learning is paid for this year. KDE has already made that payment, but we don't have to scramble and try to get reimbursed by districts. So you can let your fiscal folks know, and they can take a big sigh of relief that nobody's gonna have to be scrambling to come up with that money. Thank you so much for your patience. I know many of you reached out to me multiple times, and I really hated to say, I don't know. I can't say for sure. We were always optimistic, but it was outside of our hands, and we appreciate your understanding of that. The other thing, David, I know we're rushing through this, but I wanted to mention the school report card suite. The portal does open tomorrow, or not tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. What day is it? Tomorrow it does open. Yesterday was 2 days long because I was at the airport at 5:30 in the morning. I got home last night at 11:30. So it was a 2-day yesterday. So it's hard to believe it's only Tuesday.
We'll cut you some slack.
Yeah. So anyway, the portal is going to go live. It's going to be a phased approach. So the only piece of it that's going to go live on Wednesday is the collector, which collects all the school profile report information. It collects, it allows you to print the school profile report, which is due October 1st. That is a super tight time frame. No one believes that everybody's going to be able to get October 1. Do your best. It's a legislative time frame. We can't waive it. KDE doesn't have the authority to waive that. So do your best. I think anybody's going to understand that KDE is they're working on a new system. We're doing the best we can. If you can get the data entered in the school profile report printed, even without the signatures, have that in the board office in case you're asked. I'm not sure how many districts ever get asked for that report. But if it's something, there's a lot of interest in your community, just do your best to have it there and explain the fact that the system just became available on the 18th of September. So that data is going to be able to be put in the system. Some of you are like, I don't have to know this. This is not my thing. But the one part of it that is your thing typically is we refer folks, if they can't access the school report card portal piece, to the WAPOX. So many of you are the web application administrator point of contact. So that's the first point of contact if a district or school cannot access the school report card. So we will ask that they go there, check with you. You can look to see if they have access. Make sure that they haven't been revoked because they had non-use. If they go over 13 months without accessing the application, it automatically goes through a process of being removed from that. So kind of make sure that that's the case. If you can't figure it out, your next course of action is going to the CAT service desk. So you'll contact the CAT service desk. We're going to make sure that they're in our file. If they're in our file and we've sent it to ANLAR, then the next step is we're going to have to escalate it to their help desk. We had a successful test this morning with 4 districts. They were able to log into the school report card without problem. So that's good news. So we're all good. And David, I'm going to steal just a little bit of your time here. We do have, this is the new look for the portal. This is the school report card portal. Initially, you're just going to see this home. This is the home page. You're going to see collection at the district level. There's going to be 4 options. There's school collector data, which in most cases, unless you're small districts, probably schools are entering that data. The second one is being able to print the school profile report. So those first 2 options are the only 2 that schools will see. Districts have another 2 options. One of them is to monitor the collector information. So they can monitor all of their schools and see where they are, if they've approved, or if they're in process, or if they've completed the data entry. And then they will also be able to put this superintendent message in. There's also going to be a help feature here that will have information about how to access folks, and also we'll have some resource materials available in it by tomorrow. So that is just kind of a really quick overview. It's not super hard. ANLAR is going to be providing training in the morning from 9 to 10:30. That communication should go out in the next few minutes to all districts. They've already been informed it's going to happen, but this one has the Zoom links in it. So they're going to also provide some office hours the rest of the week. I think it's every day, like 9 to 12 or something like that. They're going to do. So this is where districts can monitor and see where things are and what the status of it is to help them out. We're still working on an export. I know some of you bigger districts really need an export. It's a lot to scroll through. And we're trying to do an export of all the data that's been entered also. So you've got that. That's not available yet. As we get to the end of the month, you'll see another 2 options here. You'll see a preview option and an approval option that allows districts to see the data that's been entered by KDE and go through a process to approve it. You have the option at the district level to decide if you want schools to do that approval or if you just want to do it at the district level. We don't care. We only look to make sure that there's district approvals. We know that if you want your schools to go through the approval process, and I would say the bigger districts probably definitely do, that's fine. That way you can kind of monitor who's approved it before you approve the district level. So those will be the features that will be added onto this, and we'll share more information and more training opportunities as that part of it rolls out. So David, I kind of stole some of your time there, but I thought that was pretty relevant.
That was important. Yeah, that was super important to do. I mean, we're trying to end right at 10:30, but it's okay to go a little bit over it. The reminder of October 16th is our next webcast. It's really going to focus in on, we'll give an update on a variety of other things, but how can technology play a role in helping out with chronic absenteeism of our students? And we covered some of that last month of your feedback you gave during the K-12 CIO Summit, but we're going to hone in on some and really, some of you maybe have never seen the Infinite Campus early warning system to let folks know that they may have some students on the verge of just not dropping out, but having large spans of not attending school, but also some of the positive products that we have out there that districts get at no cost, like PBS Learning Media, Kentucky Educational Television leads that on behalf of Kentucky, is going to give an overview of that and how much that's used within Kentucky. Same thing with a product from Everfi. They will join us, and this is a free product to Kentucky. Most of you will relate to this problem or this service that it really helps students understand the basics of personal finance. And this was the result of the housing market crash of so many people not really understanding the basics of financing and entering into financing for homes when they didn't have the money to pay for it. But it hits a wide variety of STEM topics, and we've asked everybody to join us. The Kentucky Virtual Library will join us as well, the IT Academy, and our EdTech integrations by our digital learning coaches and your digital learning coaches across the state. I'd also ask you send this invitation to your chief academic officer. We're going to ask our state level chief academic officer to send it to their to the CIOs as well. But we're wanting to get this on the radar screen of both types of groups. Last item in our main portion before we go to our closed session is one of the most enjoyable things I have doing is recognizing folks that go above and beyond the call of duty to help out education technology in Kentucky K-12. And at our Office of Education Technology Team Huddle, I got to surprise 3 individuals as the 2023-24 Stillwell Award winners. So if you can put the Stillwell Award link in there, because this gives you the background of the folks that are new to us that about the Stillwell Award itself. Some of you recall that we had a special recognition for folks across the state that helped out with education technology during COVID. But this puts us back on our regular schedule of individual awardees. So do we have the link in there for the Stillwell Award? Okay, it's in the chat. Okay, so for our staff, is it in the chat?
Sure is.
Okay, I'm trying to see if I don't see it over there. Now I see it. Okay. So this gives a long history of the Stillwell Award, named after Bill Stillwell, former University of Kentucky professor. And the folks that we recognized in our huddle that are now part of our kind of a Hall of Fame for education technology that we award is Elaine Harrison Lane. Elaine Harrison Lane was really the mom of our STLP program, Student Technology Leadership Program, which was birthed in 1994. And Elaine led that effort all the way to 2013, including our transition from just regional championships to the state championship. And she was also part of, because it became so big during that time, is it used to be part of the technology conference, the KETC, the Kentucky Education Technology Conference. And so really to give both their due, it was two separate events. And part of that too was we had technology folks in districts saying they really couldn't enjoy like KISTI because they were spending so much time at STLP and vice versa. And so that's really worked out. So Elaine Harrison Lane, it was fun seeing Elaine. First time she'd been around our in the huddle for a while, and it totally caught her off guard. She actually came here, did some filming of just the history of what STLP meant in early days and what it's meant today. And actually in my office, to my right, which you can't see, are those license plates over there from Elaine, from they say STLP, that she drove around with her car. Our next awardee, we gave 3, is a person you see on screen now, Jeff Sobolski, who has taken over the reins from Elaine in 2013 and taken STLP to even higher heights, to the point that Don Kaufman, my predecessor, when he came to STLP state championship 2 years ago, Don's not one to show much emotion or be weepy, but he started tearing up to see what this neat thing that was started in 1994 when he was part of our organization, what it has turned into. And obviously Jeff has many talents beyond STLP that we get to enjoy his talents of. But Jeff, thank you for wonderful job you've done with STLP, and congratulations for being a 2023 and 24 Stillwell Award winner. The last awardee is, I got to meet her when she was at Shelby County when we were implementing the Kentucky Education Technology System pilot site, the first versions of anything that were going into a district, so we can learn about it before we went and put them in place in other districts around the state. And Charlotte Chowning was in the finance office around that time. Charlotte also has a wide history of being a coach, one of the first players in the UK women's basketball team, if you don't know that about Charlotte. But great teacher, great coach, great leader, great administrator. We were fortunate to have her part of our instructional technology part of our organization, and she was a big leader in the Kentucky Education Technology Conference. And then she transitioned over to a CETS engineer in Northern Kentucky, and it's the longest serving CETS engineer that we've had in Northern Kentucky. So it was great fun to recognize Charlotte Chowning for many, many years. And obviously she won't let me say the number of years she has involved with education. It's way beyond mine, and definitely is someone that's dedicated her life to make good opportunities for students and teachers and staff across the state. So those are our 3 award winners. We do have one more to give out that will not be today, but there is one more in the queue that we plan to recognize. So, but these are folks that we want to make sure you're aware of. They will be added to that link. Be a press release going out to it, and congratulations to our 2023-24 award winners. And here, there's a good picture. Rob McKinney joined us for that, so it was great to see those folks. It was wonderful. Awesome people right there as award winners. Yep. All right. Well, that concludes our.
Did you want to show the final poll question real quick about cybersecurity?
I'm going to do that in the closed. We can. I'm going to do the closed. I'm going to do the cybersecurity health, and then the one about the phishing in the closed. Okay.
Okay.
So that concludes the our regular portion of our meeting, where we will now take a minute pause and go to our closed session. That's really for our OET staff and for our districts, those that are our CETS partners and the co-ops, anyone else beyond. Thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll see you next month.